All right, we are told you can add Bobby Jindal to the list of Republican candidates running for president of the United States. He, too, will prominently feature a series of lower tax rates. We don't know how low they will go. We do know the number to beat right now is Rand Paul's 14.5% flat tax that the senator freely admits will rob the government of about $2 trillion in revenues over the next decade. But that's by design and for good reason. And this intent to starve the government would be a good thing, according to him, and a good thing for many of these Republican candidates. But Art Laffer, who, if you think about it, got that ball rolling with Ronald Reagan and some big tax cuts. The idea back then, Art, was to go ahead and be revenue neutral, or talk about being revenue neutral. A lot of these guys are coming out the gate saying, no, this won't be remotely revenue neutral. Is that a good thing? I know dynamic accounting and all this creates revenues, and I know that. But is that going to sell well?
Well, our first bill, Neil, in 1981 was not revenue neutral. We cut tax rates across the board with no offsets. Now, the second one, the 86 Tax Act, was revenue neutral. It was to bring rates down, but to get rid of all the deductions, exemptions, and exclusions. Right. And if you look at Rand Paul's and a lot of these others, they also get rid of a lot of deductions, exemptions, and exclusions, loopholes, if you will.
But not one of them revenue neutral, at least according to those who crunch the numbers.
Well, not static revenue neutral.
Right.
I mean, the issue here is we are in a terrible, terrible, terrible economy. And Rand Paul's proposal is absolutely spectacular. Do remember, it's a proposal. Is his the favorite
for you? Do you like his the most?
Well, as it is right now, yes, I do. I mean, his is great right now. But they're all going to change as time goes on. But what you've got to remember is this is his proposal. It's not the final legislation.
Yeah, I understand.
And, and if you don't put the North Star out there to begin with, you never get any advantage at all. You've got to put what you believe to be true, and then let the compromises come later. Don't compromise before you've even made a proposal.
It's a very good point.
And that's what he's doing.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from.
It's the right way to do it.
But you know what I wonder about with this sort of stuff? The only way it can happen is you'd have to have a Republican Congress working with a Republican president. And further, you're probably going to need that Republican elected by a substantial margin, which is what helped Ronald Reagan, right? Now,
it sure did.
I'm wondering whether the appetite will be there to do so, when the typical attacks you get on this stuff is that they're regressive, they adversely hit poorer folk, and that all of a sudden it comes at a time when 47% of Americans in this country don't pay any federal income taxes, markedly different than when you and Ronald Reagan were doing this, and that's a game changer and means it's a deal killer.
Well, two things. Well, number one, don't believe that Republicans are the only people on earth who want pro-growth agendas, and don't believe that all Republicans want a pro-growth agenda. They don't. There's a lot of variety here. It's not Republican. It's not Democrat. It's just plain economics that we're looking at here. And when you look at these things, I mean, you're going to get a lot of pushback. But with regard to regressivity, the neat thing about Rand Paul's proposal is he incorporated the payroll tax, which is notably regressive.
That's right.
With the income tax. And if you get the two together, you shouldn't have...
Didn't he phase that out? Didn't he phase it out altogether?
Yeah, he got rid of the payroll tax totally in his proposal. And he also made the business tax not on profits, but on net sales, which is exactly what you want. You don't want to discriminate against good companies in favor of bailouts for bad companies. Cylinder should not be our model. I mean, our model should be good pro-growth companies where we don't discriminate against them by taxing the bejabbers out of them. And then the other companies, we let them hire lawyers, accountants, and favor grabbers and bail them out. So I like the net sales proposal that Rand Paul has put in, and I hope he appreciates just how good his proposal is, because it is really a good game-changer start.
I think I see you behind Rand Paul here.